Hi, I'm Daniel Leakey, and welcome to Mental Health 101. Mental Health 101 is a podcast dedicated to breaking the stigma around mental health and providing listeners with practical tools for emotional well being. And today I have my special guest. He is a producer, writer, director, and of course, author of the book Darkness Rolled Over Her. No other than Mr. Paul Skidmore.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Mental Health, Mr. Skidmore or Mr. Paul. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
I'd be glad to. I'm an author and filmmaker. I'm in Tennessee in the United States. And I've written a short story called The Darkness Rolled Over Her. And it deals with the topic of suicide. It's a story of hope and encouragement and shows the value of human connection. And along with the short story, there's also a discussion guide if you choose to use it. It's called Five Coffees in a Book. It's like a little mini book club. And the idea is that you would read the book with a friend or two and talk about it over 5 weeks over coffee.
Definitely. So, Mr. Paul, what does mental health encompass and why it is important to physical health?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about mental health and mental illness, and I think a lot of these terms get used very broadly, and we start to lose sort of a definition of what it is. And I like to, you mentioned physical health there. I like to compare it to physical health in that all of us have physical health of some kind, be it good or bad, but not all of us currently have a physical illness. So I might need to lose a few pounds or eat a little better or get a little more sleep, but I don't currently have the flu, you see. So I have, my physical health that I could maybe work on, but actually, is in a pretty good state right now. But I don't currently have a physical illness. And I think when it comes to mental things, I think of it kind of the same way that not all of us have a mental illness. Not all of us have been diagnosed with some sort of condition or something that we're struggling with or something that we need to take medication for or whatever. But everyone has mental health. Everyone's mental health can be better or worse. And that can vary on the day, that can vary on the decisions that we make and the things that we do with our physical body. We tend to think of our brain sort of as a separate thing that's like riding around in this meat vehicle that we call a body. But actually, it's all very interconnected. And the fact that you can feel something touching your outer body, that's all happening in your brain. It's all connected. It's all one thing. You're all just one thing. So mental health, physical health, very connected. And a lot of things can affect mental health. And I do not claim to be a mental health expert by any means. I'm just an author and a filmmaker, but I am a person that has mental health. I am a person that cares about it. I am a person that has struggled with, dark times of my own and want to share the things that I've learned with other people because I think that they're helpful. When I originally wrote The Darkness Rolled Over Her, um, it sort of began as a parable. My dad's a fly fisherman, and I wanted to write a story about fly fishing. And I remember when he was teaching me fly fishing, one of the things is we would um, the normal type of fishing that I would do, I would just sort of sit on the side of the river and I'd put my worm or my corn in. I'd sit there for hours and hours and hours. And for a little kid, it was kind of boring. But as a teenager, when Dad started teaching me how to do fly fishing, we never sat down. We constantly would keep moving upriver. And my dad, who is in his late 70s now, still goes fly fishing, still gets out in the water, still walks over the big slick rocks and against the rapids, and will sometimes walk for 2 or 3 hours upstream, just at a chance of catching some fish and maybe bringing some dinner home to the campsite that night. And really for him it's just about being out in nature and the fun of it and being up in the mountains with his buddies and kind of getting unplugged and getting away from it all. Um, so I wanted to write this story about fly fishing, and I thought about that idea that we keep moving upstream, and I thought about in the hard times in my life how important it was that I just kept moving no matter what was coming downstream at me, that I just needed to keep moving, you know? And so when I went to write the story, I thought I need a main character who has decided to stop moving so that she can be reminded, you know, of this. She can learn the same thing that I learned, have the same sort of epiphany that I had. And so we meet Gwen in the early pages of The Darkness Rolled Over Her. She's decided to take her own life, and but she's had this vacation planned, and so she decides to take sort of this one last trip, and it's a fly fishing retreat with some acquaintances of hers, and she gets paired up with this old fly fisherman named Roy, who she's never met, and their friendship and sort of his charming country ways sort of chip away at her decision that she's made as they spend the day together. And also on this trip, there's a young woman named Sam. Gwen looks at Sam and says, you know, I'm in my 40s. Sam is in her 20s. She looks like where I was at her age. I don't want her to be where I am at my age. And what can I do about that? Especially when I feel like I have nothing left. So it's sort of this Gwen's character arc is sort of this pull between the decision that she's made, and then she's sort of being pulled in two other directions by Roy, who is sort of a mentoring figure and an encourager. Um, and then Sam, who is someone that she would like to encourage, someone that she would like to direct in a different way if she can. And so she's sort of being pulled in these different directions, and her character arc, you know, changes because of those dynamics in the story. So once I had the story done, a friend of mine read the story, and this was somebody that I knew, but we didn't know each other very well. Our parents were friends, but I knew this person, but we were not close. So we started talking about the book. She'd read the book, and very quickly she begins discussing, you know, very kind of personal things about depression and loneliness and things that she had dealt with. And I found that I was able to reciprocate very easily. Wasn't embarrassed to talk about it. I felt very comfortable talking about it with her. You know, she was a known entity. She wasn't just a total stranger. So she was somebody that I trusted, even though we didn't know each other well. But what I found was having the book as a source of conversation made it easy for both of us to talk about those things for two reasons. Number one, she knew I knew how she felt. And that's one of the biggest things about these dark times is that you feel so isolated. You feel like someone else can't understand what you're going through. You feel that someone else isn't going through what you're going through. And so to read a story like this, you know, I hope people who read it go, oh, someone else understands this. Someone else has been through something like this at least. So maybe I'm not alone. So that's the first reason it's good to have the book and conversations like this. The second thing is the book kind of acted as a foil for us. So if either of us got into where maybe we you know kind of bumped up against the boundary of what we wanted to share, we could just sort of turn to the book and say, oh well, it was like in the book when this happened, you know. And so having that safety net, I think, to be able to just go back to the book at any time, since that was what the conversation was really about,
Yes.
I think that allowed us to share more than maybe we otherwise would have. And so after having that conversation, I thought I need to make sure other people have that conversation that she and I just had. I need to make sure that other people have a safe person that they trust, that they can just share a little bit with. And you know, sometimes just the smallest gestures like that can have the biggest impact. And so just that little bit of openness might be something that somebody needs just to keep moving a little farther down the road. So, Five Coffees in a Book is a little mini book club to discuss the book with a friend. And the whole aim of it is just to have people sitting face to face, drinking their coffee, talking to each other, sharing in a safe and responsible way, and to make friends for life.
Certainly. So, how do mental health conditions impact a person's daily life and functioning?
Well, I'll begin by speaking about it for me. Even though the story deals with you know a pretty tough topic, I wouldn't say that I personally, I don't consider myself someone who's been suicidal. Um, but there have been days where I didn't like the life that I had. You know, I woke up and stared at the ceiling and just kind of said, "Hey, if this is what life is going to be like, I don't really want to do this much more." You know, And so for me, it wasn't so much about um, uh, wanting to end things. It was just not wanting to continue what I was doing. And so it wasn't so much that I wanted to check out as I just really wanted to change, but felt I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't know how to, maybe talk with somebody about how to do that. And one day in particular, when I felt that way, I did have a close friend that I met with. We were reading together at the time once a week, and I just discussed some of those things with him. And just being able to discuss it with somebody really was huge. It just had a huge impact on my ability to keep moving and to remember that it wasn't always like this, so it won't always be like this. That these dark times, they might keep coming for the rest of my life, but they also keep going, you know. And so they come to pass. And if I can keep moving, then I can get through this time and get on to the good times on the other side of it, the peace on the other side of it. And so far, that's been the case. I think one thing that has facilitated that has been the times in my life when I've been able to give to someone else. So the thing that was unexpected for me was when I'm in a dark place and I am feeling lonely and I'm feeling unloved. I'm feeling like I want encouragement. I'm feeling like I'm not contributing anything and I don't have any value. The easy thing is for me to sit and sort of wait or hope that someone will come along and love me, that someone will come along and encourage me, that someone will come along and support me. And as you know, you don't have control over anybody else. You can't make someone love you. You can't make someone encourage you. You can ask someone, you can invite someone to do it. There have been times in my life where I have asked someone to show me some mentorship, and we had lunch. I asked for mentorship. They said, yeah, this will be great. Never heard from them ever again. And so that happens, and that's the unfortunate thing. To anybody listening, if you're thinking, hey, I would really like someone to come show me some love, I'd like someone to come show me some encouragement, I'd like someone to come show me some support. I have good news, bad news, and better news. The bad news is I'm sorry, I can't guarantee that someone will do that. You just don't have control over other people, and I can't guarantee that someone will come into your life and do that for you. But the good news is, um, the way you really get love into your life is by giving it away, not receiving it. So it does feel good to receive love from somebody a little bit. It does feel good to receive encouragement from somebody, but I promise you, it's nothing compared to what it feels like to give love away, to give encouragement, to give support away. And so one of the lines that you'll see in Five Coffees in a Book, you'll hear it in the film, is Roy telling Gwen, "You only keep what you give away." And the idea there is that, if I have money and I give you some, I have less money. If I have food and I give you some, I have less food. But with intangible things, it's actually the opposite. If I have encouragement and I give you some, somehow there's more encouragement in my life now, and also you have encouragement. So it's like doubled or tripled somehow. If I have some love and if I show you some love, then now I have more love, and also you have some love you didn't have before, and so love is now doubled or tripled. And so it's a weird economy of the intangible, the way things work, sort of the reverse that we think that they will. So the bad news is, yeah, maybe somebody won't come along and do something for you, but the good news is, uh, you can do that for someone else. No one is stopping you. Just like you can't control anybody else, no one can stop you from encouraging someone. No one can stop you from, in a healthy way, showing love to somebody, right? And the other good news is there's 8 billion people on this planet that need it. Every single one of us needs to be encouraged. Every single one of us needs to be shown love. And all of us are secretly wishing someone would come do it. And so, when you develop this mindset that, um, I only keep what I give away. If what I really want is love, then I need to show love. If what I really want is friendship, then I need to be a friend. What I really want is encouragement, then I need to encourage people. When you develop that mindset, you just get this sort of exponential growth in all of those areas. And that to me is the better news. So the bad news is, hey, maybe somebody won't come along. The good news is you're the person that comes along. You're the person that can go do it, and no one can stop you. And the better news is the love, the encouragement, and the support that you get is way better than love and support and encouragement that you would just receive by passively waiting for it. So for me, Five Coffees in a Book is a really phenomenal opportunity for people to connect with people that they even people that have been friends for a long time will connect in a new way with Five Coffees in a Book just because of the discussion that it generates. And that's why we say it's an easy way to talk about hard things, and you will make friends for life. Not just friends for the rest of your life, but friends who will contribute to the value of your life, friends who will remind you to keep moving, who will provide that encouragement and support for you. That's why I recommend anyone within the sound of my voice go to fivecoffeesinabook.com, get the short story as an ebook for free, get the discussion guide for free. There's no cost for any of this. If you want to buy paperbacks, if you want to buy coffee mugs or stickers or whatever that, I'll take your money happily and gratefully. But it's all available for free. I want you to take it. I want you to use it. I want you to benefit from it. And I want you to pass it on to someone else. That's my hope for Five Coffees in a Book.
Mr. Paul, thank you so much for empowering us. And what are some common misconceptions about mental health that need to be addressed?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, again, this is just speaking mostly from my experience because, again, I'm not a professional counselor or a doctor or anything like that. But I think it goes back to really that idea of isolation. I think that um, we don't talk about these things. We sometimes react negatively when someone else talks about it. I think some of that is when people do talk about it, it's because they've held it in for so long that
Yes.
when it finally comes out, maybe it comes out at an inappropriate time or in inappropriate ways, or maybe from people who don't necessarily have the best social cues. I know I don't, sometimes. So I think by talking about it more often in safe and healthy ways and making conversation about these topics uh, a little more normalized, then I think it will encourage others to share and to talk about things and not wait until they're in trouble and not wait until they're so far down into the abyss they think there's no way back. Um, I find a lot of these conversations look, one conversation is probably not necessarily going to completely uproot someone's life in the direction that it's going, but it can provide a little nudge. And if we have little nudges all along the way, that'll keep us from really going off into the deep end. And so the more conversations that we can have around these topics, the more safe, healthy, positive conversations that we can have around this, I think the less trouble we'll have with people just getting really so far gone and so far isolated into what they're dealing with. I think the other thing is um, I've heard it said that the thing that you think about most rises in importance in your mind. And so um, I, I think that we need to find positive ways to talk about these things. Um, it's difficult when we're talking about very serious things such as well, just depression and loneliness and worthlessness by themselves. But when you get into self harm and suicidal ideations and suicidal intent, these are very serious issues that need to be dealt with, you know, uh, right away and in whatever way is best to deal with them. Um, and So it makes it sometimes difficult to talk about these things in ways that sound positive. But as much as possible, if we can reframe what we're going through um, in positive ways, then I think that will help us have. Uh, I think that will help normalize being able to talk about it. I think that's one reason why people don't want to talk about it. Is oftentimes we talk about all the negative aspects of everything, and so then people don't want to talk about it because they don't want anything negative. I'm not saying focus on the positive aspects of depression. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is if we can talk instead about uh, the positive direction, in moving towards healthy things rather than constantly ruminating on all the negative things. because that's one thing that the isolation does is it leaves you locked into that negative space, which makes you more isolated, which makes you more negative, which makes you more isolated, which makes you more negative. And so if we can really focus, especially those of us that are in a better place, if we can be constantly focusing on positive shifts and positive movement, I think that'll make it easier to talk about, in the long haul. One thing that I've worked into Five Coffees in a Book that I think is often very underrated is gratitude. One question that you can ask anyone, even a total stranger, is what are you thankful for? And when you get into Five Coffees in a Book, you'll see that's the first question pretty much every week on the discussion guide. What are you grateful for today? What are you grateful for this week? That's something that you can ask a stranger in an elevator, the person at the checkout, your server at a restaurant. It's different than how are you, because we have sort of our prepared answer for that. I'm fine, thank you. How are you? And that it's nice and it's pleasant, but we don't really mean it. But when you ask someone, what are you thankful for? Chances are no one's asked them that today. Maybe no one's asked them that this year, and it forces them to think about a positive and pleasant thing that they're thankful for, and then to be able to share that. And you give them the opportunity to have that little experience of sharing something positive and feeling how much better they feel when they share something positive. And so I really encourage gratitude with anybody that I have these kind of discussions with, because it's such an underrated superpower just to be thankful. Me personally, there are a lot of times when I can feel myself sliding into that dark place. A friend of mine gave this visual metaphor of a plane, and as the plane is sort of getting lower, the landing gear starts to catch the top of trees, you know. And he said when you start feeling that happening, that's when you kind of need to pull up somehow. And for me, the way that I pull up when I start catching leaves is gratitude. When I start feeling things kind of closing in, I feel myself sort of falling apart, I just stop and take a deep breath and say, man, I have a charmed life. I have so much to be thankful for. Let me just make a list. And it's just really hard to be negative and angry and grateful at the same time. It's really hard to contain those at the same time. And so gratitude is just what can just squelch out a caustic, chemical fire of negativity, in my experience, very quickly. It's not a panacea. It's not going to help everything for everybody, but I do recommend it for everyone.
Yes, be
There's no
grateful.
downside to it. There's no ill side effects to gratitude.
Yes, count your blessing, people, and be grateful. So, Mr. Paul, what would be your advice for those people out there now suffering from mental health illness?
Yeah, well, the metaphor that I've used with my book in particular, which deals with the topic of suicide, is we're talking about people that have arrived at a train station where they're going to get on a train that leaves and never comes back. And my number one goal is let's stop them from getting on that train if we can. Let's do whatever emergency things that we need to do in order to do that. And certainly, if someone is um, currently in a place where they are considering harming themselves or other people, then you need to take some quick action to get them some help. Here in the U.S., we finally approved 988 as the suicide hotline number. So just like we have 911 for emergency calls, now we have 988, which will immediately connect you with the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. I think is wonderful. I'm really glad that they passed that. It's a lot easier to remember than whatever the 800 number was that I could never memorize. So 988 is a place, and um, you don't have to be the person uh, suffering from the ideations or the intent to call. If you're with someone, you can call on their behalf and get them some help. So first of all is they say if you're if your eyes are irritated and you're coughing and your skin is covered in black grime, the first thing you need to do is get out of the house because it's on fire. Right, so you got to deal with the first thing first, the sort of the immediate thing first. Then you can sort of take care of all the other issues. And so when you have someone that's in that space, the first thing is, this is a serious thing that needs to be dealt with right away. Oftentimes, just someone showing that they care enough to help someone in that time is enough to pull someone back from the brink. I've seen that, a number of times. Um, but in the long run, everyone who arrives at this train station, everyone who arrives at this place, they all come from a unique place and they all get there in a unique way. And therefore, they're going to need a unique set of circumstances to get them back home. Some people are going to need medication for a short term. Some people are going to need medication long term. Some people aren't going to need medication at all. Some people are going to need individual therapy. Some people are going to need group therapy. Some people might need a more intense kind of therapy. Some people are going to need a combination of these things. Uh, some people like me that aren't really fully into the station. Some people like me need to get better sleep, eat better, and go outside and walk in the sunshine. Doing some of those things have really done wonders for my mood and my mental health and things like that. Just making some better lifestyle choices. And but for other people, it's maybe a genetic chemical issue that really requires some ongoing medication or something like that. So everyone needs a different a different answer that's tailored specifically to them. I can't do that. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a doctor, but there are people out there that obviously can do that. But the one thing that I think everyone needs is to be able to talk about what's going on. Because if you can't talk about what's going on, then it's not going to get better. It's actually only going to get worse. And so the best way to keep moving is to share what's going on. And again, that's why I was so adamant after that conversation with my friend to make something like Five Coffees in a Book, because I thought, regardless of what other things a person might need, they have to talk about it at least a little bit with somebody in a safe way, with somebody that they care about. And so I worked real hard over several weeks. And my friend Emma did such a great design on the PDF and the social media stuff. If you don't want to download the PDF, you don't have to print it. If you don't like PDFs, you can go on the Instagram, and if you look at the highlights at the top of the Five Coffees in a Book Instagram page, you'll see there's instructions: week 1, week 2, week 3, and that way it'll take you directly to the post down on the grid. You can swipe through and read the notes there. Facebook, if you go to our Facebook page and go to the photos, there's albums for the instructions: week 1, week 2, week 3. So all the same information that's in the PDF or in the booklet, but it's just in a way that you can quickly swipe through from your Facebook or your Instagram. We just try to make it as easy and accessible to people as possible. And it's not critical that you go, obviously, you can talk about whatever you want. My goal is just sit down and have the opportunity to talk about some of these things with someone else. The first group that really guinea pigged this for me before I really put it out and started pushing it, there were people that had known each other for a while and were good friends. Some of them were very close friends. But once they started doing this, by week 2 or 3, they were saying to each other, they had a group chat going, and they said, "Can we keep this going even after these 5 weeks are over? Because I really need these relationships in my life, and I didn't even realize it." You know, and by the time they got to week 4 is everybody has a opportunity to sort of share some of their own story. Um, by the time they got to week 4, uh, they had been meeting in coffee shops, and in week 4 they met in someone's home, and they shared for almost 3 hours, sharing their personal stories with each other. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to spend 3 hours doing it. I've done it with another group where we just spent 5 or 10 minutes sharing with each other. But the bonds that you make during this time are just really incredible and unlock a level of friendship and love and encouragement that you might not even know existed until you get into a relationship like this with people that'll support you. You can do it over Zoom. You can do it over video chat or FaceTime or something like that. There's no reason you can't do that. But I always recommend uh, sitting across the table. I love a cup of coffee. If coffee's not your thing, get you some matcha or some tea, or some hot chocolate or some water, and just spend time with another person and let them know that you care about them and give them the opportunity to show you the same.
Certainly. So, Mr. Paul, before we wrap up our discussion for tonight, would you like to plug in your books, movies, or your projects?
Absolutely. So again, you can go to fivecoffeesandabook.com. You can get the Darkness Rolled Over Her ebook absolutely at no cost. You can get the discussion guide at fivecoffeesinabook.com as well. There's also connections to some different social media things. At the very top, just before the box where you put in your email address to download the book, it links over to the page for the movie. And there you can watch the trailer to the film. You can learn a little bit about the cast. I've got a little mini bio on there as well. We'll be updating that with more information as the film comes to a close. I have 4 books in total. The paperbacks and ebooks are available on Amazon. Ebooks also available on Apple Books. And then there's a couple of audiobooks as well. You can go to parabolos.com, parabolos.com, and find links to everything that I do, podcasts, audiobooks, and all that. But in addition to The Darkness Rolled Over Her, I have 2 other short stories. My first short story that I published called Kindling, which is sort of a Southern thriller. Ciao Bella, which is very short, 16 pages, but it's the mostly true memoir of being in Italy, meeting the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. And then what was supposed to be a short story and ended up being a little longer story. My first novel, God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, and it's a Cold War Christmas historical fiction. So if you like that sort of thing, that's a fun book. I'd love to make that as my next film. The Darkness Rolled Over Her, the movie, will be out sometime this year, 2025. We're very close to completing it, and I'm excited to share it with everyone. And if you when you sign up to download the free ebook of The Darkness Rolled Over Her, you'll get added to our email list. I don't send out a ton of emails, and I will not give your email address to anyone else. That is purely, you'll get a couple of automated emails right at the beginning about downloading the book and sharing it with somebody else. But after that, I haven't sent an email on this list in months because there just hasn't been a reason to. You're not going to get inundated with stuff. You can unsubscribe at any time. But if you stay subscribed, you'll get information about the film when it comes out and how to be able to share that with others. And finally, if you do start a 5 Coffees and a Book group with a couple of friends, please find me and tell me about it. I would love to hear about it. I would love to hear about the experience that you had. I'd love to get some feedback from you. And I hope that it's a wonderful and positive experience for you and your friends. 5coffeesinabook.com.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Paul because if you support him, more empowering activities, more movies, more books to come. So, how can one seek help if they are suspect they have a mental health condition but don't know where to start?
Great question. Like I said, if it's an emergency situation, particularly dealing with suicide, and in the US, you can call 988. That's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. There, you'll be connected with someone who will connect you to resources in your area. They will connect you to either a hospital or professional in your area that will be able to help you. As far as other mental health issues, the best way is just to begin with your doctor and let them refer you to someone that is going to be perfect for whatever it is that you're dealing with. And if if that's intimidating, or if you don't even know a doctor to go to, then I would suggest reaching out to a friend. You got somebody that you know loves you. You got somebody that you know cares about you. Reach out to them and let them know what's going on. And someone who loves you will help you find the help that you need. So the biggest thing is don't keep it bottled up and don't assume that nobody cares, because many of us care. We get locked into our own thing and don't seem like we're paying attention. But there are so many of us that if we knew that we had a friend that was in trouble or in need, we'd lay down whatever we were doing in our life to help them. And so I hope that not only that you have people in your life that would do that, but I hope that you would be that for someone else.
Mr. Paul Skidmore, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
More to come, people. See you soon.